June 11, 1971, Los Angeles, 7:18 in the evening. The heat has not left the city yet. It is one of those Southern California evenings when the sun is already low, the sky already thinning toward gold. And yet the air still holds the trapped warmth of the afternoon, with the specific stubbornness of heat that does not want to surrender the day. Outside the gym on La Brea Avenue, traffic keeps moving with its usual indifference. Engines idling, tires whispering across dry pavement, radios leaking through half-open windows. But inside the training hall, the atmosphere is different. Denser, closer, more aware of itself. The room smells of canvas, sweat, old varnished wood, chalk, liniment, and the faint electric dryness of overhead industrial lights that have been burning since late afternoon. The floor beneath the lifting platform carries the specific polished roughness of wood that has held serious weight for years. Steel plates rest in stacks against the far wall. Thick ropes hang from metal hooks. A row of benches sits in shadow. The air feels used. 4 seconds from now, nobody in this room will move. Collective held breath, that is the first fact. The second is that the largest man in the building, a man who has spent his life making other men move when they did not want to, will be standing in complete stillness, his hands half lifted, his expression carrying the first thin crack in public certainty. Bruce Lee will be 3 feet away, calm, almost relaxed, completely present, and the 46 people gathered around the edges of the room, lifters, martial artists, trainers, promoters, a boxer, 2 stuntmen, an older wrestling coach with his arms folded so tightly it looks personal, will know that they have just seen something precise enough to resist language. That is where the story ends. To understand how it begins, you have to go backward, to the building, to the crowd, to the specific room temperature confidence of a strong man who had been publicly right for too long, and to the quiet man standing near the far wall, carrying nothing unnecessary, waiting without appearing to wait at all. The training hall belongs to a private athletics club that sits behind a plain concrete facade and a narrow parking lot full of dusty cars and 1 delivery truck. It is not a glamorous place. Which is to say, it is a serious one. Men do not come here to be seen unless they are bringing something worth seeing. The walls are painted a pale cream that is darkened with age. The corners of the room hold old shadows. A single oscillating fan near the office door pushes warm air in a lazy arc that helps no one and is left running anyway. Tonight's gathering is unofficial. That matters. There are no posters, no public tickets, no announcer. No real program, just invitations passed quietly among a certain kind of man, the kind who hears about unusual physical talent and rearranges his evening accordingly. The local promoter who organized it tells people it is simply a demonstration, some lifting, some discussion, maybe a little comparison between different approaches to body control, leverage, explosiveness. No one believes it will remain that simple. Because the man at the center of the room is Frank Garrison, 35 years old, 6 feet 4 inches tall, 300 pounds, not soft weight, not decorative mass, the specific, consolidated size of a man who has spent 15 years treating strength not as a hobby, but as a profession of identity. His shoulders are enormous. His neck seems almost structural. His forearms look less like body parts than tools designed for pulling engines apart. He has won regional strongman contests across California and Nevada. He has bent steel spikes in half for crowds. He has deadlifted numbers that trainers still repeat with a mixture of admiration and resentment. He has built a reputation around the one thing every room understands without translation, force. And Frank Garrison knows exactly how rooms respond to force. He knows how men look at him before he has lifted anything. He knows the specific silence that size creates before talent even enters the conversation. He enjoys it, not in a childish way, not with cartoon arrogance, but with the easy certainty of a man who has spent too many years being the obvious answer to every physical question in the room. Confidence has settled into him so deeply that it no longer reads as emotion. It reads as arrangement. The way he stands, the way he turns, the way he lets people wait half a second longer than necessary before speaking because he knows that half-second belongs to him. He is, publicly and completely, the expected center of gravity. By 7:31 p.m., Frank has already given the room what it came for. He has lifted a loaded bar from the platform with the specific untheatrical brutality that only very strong men possess. No wasted movement, no decorative noise, just hips, back, grip, breath, and weight leaving the floor because his body has decided that is what will happen. Exhales forcefully. The witnesses react the way witnesses always react to authentic physical superiority. First with silence, then with small involuntary sounds they would deny later. A low whistle, sharp inhale, a breath. Someone near the wall saying "Jesus" under his breath without intending it as commentary. Frank receives all of it without appearing to receive it. That is part of his authority. He wipes his palms on a white towel. Slow, controlled breathing, talks between sets. Lets a wrestling coach test his grip and enjoy failing to look unimpressed. One of the younger men asks how much of strength is technique and how much is aggression. Frank smiles with one side of his mouth and says, "Aggression without control is just noise." The room likes that. Murmurs of agreement. They nod. It sounds like experience because it is. And against the far wall, near the hanging ropes, and beneath a rectangle of light spilling in from the office doorway, Bruce Lee watches. At first glance, he does not belong to the same visual equation. That is the first mistake the room makes. He is 30 years old, 5 feet 7 inches, around 140 pounds, wearing dark training trousers and a black open collar top with sleeves rolled once at the wrists. His frame is narrow compared to Frank's bulk, but not fragile. Nothing about him is fragile. Lean is the first word people think. Finished is the more accurate one. His body does not look built for display. It looks edited, reduced to essentials, every line carrying the particular economy of something honed by repeated subtraction. He does not insert himself into conversation. He does not ask questions. He stands with one shoulder close to the wall, hands low, expression unreadable, breathing so controlled it's barely visible, watching Frank the way a watchmaker watches a clock, not admiring the surface, not intimidated by the casing, but attending to the mechanism underneath. The specific quality of Bruce's attention is what unsettles the older men first. He is not impressed, which is not the same as being dismissive. He is simply present without surrendering any of himself to spectacle. He carries nothing unnecessary, no visible tension, no need to be noticed, no need to declare what he thinks, which is to say, the room notices him anyway. A stuntman from Burbank leans toward the wrestling coach and murmurs, quiet whisper, "That him?" The coach nods once without taking his eyes off Bruce. Another man says he expected Bruce to be taller. An older karate instructor says quietly, "You expected wrong thing." The emotional geometry of the room begins to shift. Not away from Frank, not yet, but the room now has two centers in it. One obvious, one quiet. And serious rooms always feel that kind of split before they understand it. The conversation that changes the evening begins casually enough. Frank has finished another lift, sets down the bar with controlled force. The crowd has loosened slightly. Someone brings bottled water. Someone else lights a cigarette near the open side door and is told immediately to take it outside. The promoter, who has been waiting for exactly this level of informal confidence to settle over the room, decides to let the disciplines mingle. He gestures toward Bruce and says, lightly, "Frank, you know Bruce." Frank turns, dabs his forehead once with the towel, steadies his breathing, and studies the smaller man near the wall, with a direct, practiced expression. He knows the name. Everyone in Los Angeles athletic circles knows the name by now. Bruce Lee means speed, demonstrations, movie work, private stories retold with enough conviction to become local mythology. Frank is too experienced to dismiss any man entirely. But experience has also taught him to trust what size and contact reveal. He walks over, footsteps heavy on the wooden floor. The crowd follows without moving. That is the particular magic of anticipation. People remain where they are, and yet the whole room gathers around one point. Frank extends his hand first. Bruce takes it. The handshake is short, real. No squeezing contest, no childish test. Just information, bone, temperature, tension, intent. Frank says, "Heard a lot about you." Bruce says, voice calm, no edge, most of it probably too much. A few men smile. Nervous chuckles. Frank does not. Not because he is offended, because he is assessing. Bruce's voice has no defensive edge in it, no need to establish anything. The strong man notices this. He notices, too, the strange absence of strain in Bruce's posture at close range, standing next to 300 pounds of visible power. Bruce does not seem to shrink or sharpen or overcompensate. He remains exactly the same shape he was against the wall, simply what he is. Frank asks, "You work with strength, guys. Sometimes you lift when it helps." That answer gets a small laugh. Bruce doesn't smile. Frank does, but thinly, in the specific way of a man deciding whether the person across from him is modest or evasive. The promoter says, Bruce talks a lot about balance, timing, redirecting force. Frank glances sideways at him, then back to Bruce. Redirecting force, he repeats. That's easier to say when you're not the one getting pushed. The room stills by 1 degree. Silence thickens. Bruce looks at Frank's chest, then his shoulders, then his hands. He is not staring, he is reading. Frank notices being read and, for the first time that evening, does not entirely enjoy it. Bruce says pushing is honest. Frank's mouth moves into the nearest thing to amusement he has shown in 10 minutes. You volunteering? Bruce says, no. A pause. Tension crystallizes. Then, I'm asking you to go first. That changes everything. Not loudly, not theatrically, but completely. Because a challenge phrased that way is not a challenge in the ordinary American sense. It does not sound like a boast. It sounds like a test proposed by someone who already knows what the test is for. The room tightens around the sentence. Collective shift in posture. The wrestler unfolds his arms. A boxer near the speed bag rack steps closer. Shoes scraping on wood. Fabric shifts. Someone clears his throat, regrets being the only sound. And regrets being the only sound for a second and a half. Frank studies Bruce again, longer now. Slow exhale through nose. The offer has placed him inside a situation with 2 bad exits. If he refuses, the room remembers the refusal. If he accepts and dominates, he confirms the identity the room already gave him. If he accepts and does not dominate, the room becomes something else entirely. Public men do not like leaving doors unopened. Frank tosses the towel onto a bench and says, all right. They move to the center of the wood floor. No ring, no mats, just polished hardwood carrying old scuffs and the faint smell of dust lifted by movement. The promoter raises both hands and says, easy, controlled. Nobody is really listening to him now. Barely audible murmurs. 46 people who have spent their lives around martial arts, wrestling, lifting, boxing, and stunt work are looking at the same 2